Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining in. We're going to give just a minute or two for folks to get in here and get settled in before we'll get started. But we're really excited to have all of you joining us. And we're really looking forward to this incredible discussion with some really incredible folks here. Okay, we'll have about one more minute here. And Courtney, you are sideways for us. There you go. We will go ahead. Thanks everyone for being here. Welcome to our first FabFems Friday of the summer. Our focus today is going to be on aerospace engineering and design thinking. We have a fabulous lineup throughout June and July, so we're really hopeful that you are able to join us for these panel discussions where we have current students, alums, and STEM role models from all over our community. My name is Amy Beebe. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm the Assistant Director for Women in STEM. Women in STEM sits within the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement here at the University of Texas at Austin. Couple of things to go over. The FabFems directory is a national database of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, i.e. STEM. Professions who are inspiring role models for young women. So the FabFems directory is managed by our National Girls Collaborative Project and is accessible to young women, girls serving STEM programs, and other organizations that are working to increase career awareness and interest in STEM. So you can use FabFems to find STEM role models. So role models go in, they create these profiles, and they indicate how they want to be connected with, either serve as a role model or just share a profile online for people to view. So students can then go in and read about these experiences or connect with the role model if they're open to doing that. So students, y'all are able to search by a keyword or a zip code, a field of work, interest of engineering, or other STEM professional. So there's lots of ways and lots of options for you to be able to go in there, see who's out there, see what they are doing, and seeing if maybe you can connect and learn a little bit more about that particular field of interest. Also going to shamelessly plug that we have our YouTube channel. We'll be adding all of our FabFem Friday webinars to that YouTube channel, and also other types of videos to help all of our future and current students. So subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified of when new videos are added. And please also subscribe. We are freshly starting this. We want to reach 100 subscribers, so that way we can make our own customized URL so it's easy to find our channel. And in the chat, our fabulous program assistant is going to throw in the link so you can go there, hit that subscribe, and get notified on some of our new videos that we'll have posted. And also feel free to explore some of the ones that we have up already. So with that, I am going to turn it over and have our fabulous panelists introduce themselves. After introduction, we'll have a facilitated panel with some pre-selected questions, and then we'll also be taking questions from the audience. So as you're here, as you're learning about what these incredible women are doing, feel free to throw some in the Q&A and submit your questions at any time. So for our panelists, please do a quick introduction, name, pronouns, your hometown, your major, degrees, if you are a current student, what year you are in school, what company or organization you may be currently working for or future working with, and a hobby or some kind of other activity that you may like to do outside of school or work. So I will just start it over with you, Weedy.
Hi, I'm Weedy Cutchell. I go by she and her, although I do answer to sir, which happens a lot more often than you'd expect. I grew up in a rural farming community down in southeast Texas. Went to high school in a little town called Edna and graduated with 100 of my fellow students back a very long time ago. From there, I went to UT Austin and majored in aerospace engineering. I graduated back in 1988 and have been working in San Antonio in the aviation community ever since. For the past 18 years, I've been out on my own as a technical consultant. And so I do a lot of overflow work and specialty work for a number of different customers. When I'm not working, I like to hike and spend time outdoors, gardening, or just, doing whatever. And I also have some creative pursuits. I like to work with metal, and more recently I've started working with glass, doing glass fusing and stuff. So anyway, just a lot of different stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Go ahead, Andrea.
Hi, everybody. This is Andrea Velisovich. I go by she, her. I'm from Austin, Texas originally. I am a UT Austin alum. I got my bachelor's degree in mathematics in 2003. And then I went on to get a master's degree in statistics at the University of New Mexico. I actually just moved back to Austin after being in Arizona for 17 years, where I actually worked for Intel, Deloitte, and then SAP. I'm currently self-employed, and I'm a managing partner of RelCap LLC, which is a commercial real estate and portfolio management company. So it's been super fun over the past year and a half. I've been doing my own thing. I also previously worked as a statistician. Really, data science is my thing. And I have been doing cloud HR software implementation previously before I started my own business. Outside of work, I love dogs. I love fostering dogs. I've probably fostered like 20 dogs over the past 10 years. I only have one of my own, but she's super fun. And I also have another place down in Port Aransas, Texas. So when I'm not in Austin, I love to be down on the coastal Texas area. It's great down there. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. Abigail?
Hi, my name is Abigail Mcdonald. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from a city outside Dallas called Irving, and this is my second year studying aerospace engineering at UT. And outside of school, I play in an orchestra at UT. I play violin there. So I really enjoy music, and I've been learning a bunch of various instruments. So right now I'm focused on learning how to play the accordion, but also back home, I enjoy raising chickens in our backyard.
That is awesome. Rebecca?
Hi, my name is Rebecca. I recently graduated in May, and I will be from mechanical engineering, and I'll be working for Nike as an engineer this upcoming August. I came from Gurnee, Illinois, a small town near Chicago. My family now lives in Austin. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And when I'm not working, I enjoy playing a variety of video games. I've recently gotten into one called Destiny 2, and yeah, it's a learning curve, much like school. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Incredible. We also have two incredible people from Visa. Visa is one of our WiSTEM summer externship corporate partners. So they are helping support over 550 undergraduate students who are building skills and advancing their learning this summer. So really excited to have them here. Courtney, if you want to start off with an introduction here.
Sure. So my name's Courtney. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm originally from Southeast Virginia, Virginia Beach area. For undergrad, I went to George Mason. I actually studied music, so similar to Abigail, still dabble in that here and there. I got into graphic design halfway through, studying for my music degree. And then I ended up going to UT Austin for grad school 2013 to 2015 in the advertising program. So since then, I've been working remotely for almost 10 years in design, starting off with interactive agency design work, went off into media, did a lot of brand experiential design, and then moved back over to the product and UX side, working for Apple on their podcast team, and now with Visa. So I work on the security and identity team. I work with Ola very frequently. And then outside of work, let's see, before the pandemic started, I started taking figure skating lessons because I needed an offline hobby that I was really bad at to work on. So started doing that, been doing a lot of reading. And then similar to Rebecca, playing video games, mostly Switch games. My current obsession is Overcooked because I can just kind of zone out and play that. So that's what I've been doing lately. I also have a dog too. So Andrea, right there with you.
Awesome. Ola?
Hello, I'm Ola. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. I lived in Austin briefly when I first started working at Visa, but now I'm back home over here after the pandemic. I studied human-centered design and engineering at the University of Washington. And then I've been with Visa for the past 3 years as a design researcher. And then outside of work, I almost said outside of school, because we're like in the field right now, like talking about universities. I don't feel like I'm that far out of university, but outside of work, I speak Arabic fluently and I really like working with children. So I teach 6-year-olds Arabic once a week. And then I'm from the Pacific Northwest. So of course I go hiking and do all the outdoors things once the weather gets nice.
That is incredible. So Courtney and Ola, what STEM work is happening at Visa? Can you give us a little glimpse into the types of STEM jobs or projects that are happening there?
Yeah, I can start off a little bit. So focusing on the technology aspect of things and more design focused roles, there are a lot of opportunities at our company and many other like internal product teams for creative technologists. This role is also known as design engineering, but when I think of what STEM work is going on, I think about the partnership between design teams and engineering teams to create things like design systems, and creating frameworks and code bases to make them shareable for the product engineering team. So on each product type, there may be a dedicated set of developers working on things, and I think the way that the collaboration works between creative technologists and design is really, really imperative to implementation across, a large product catalog.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, something I didn't realize when I was in school, because obviously didn't really have any interaction with Visa other than it was, something written on my debit card. I didn't really realize that Visa is a technology company first and foremost, and the core function of Visa is engineering. So that's like the driving force of all of our products and our main functions. But yeah, so I don't know if anyone else didn't realize that the thing that makes Visa run is the engineering and technology side, all types of STEM functions.
Runs the full spectrum. And so Courtney, you talked a little bit about like design thinking and working with the teams and how that all comes together. Can you elaborate a little bit more on like how in practice that has looked like across Visa?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a big team of product designers globally at our company. And, we work with engineering teams to determine feasibility of a lot of different features. Our expertise on my team and many others is to think about the user side. What are the user needs? What is likely going to be like a positive user flow, like a happy path? We like to think about unhappy paths too. Where might the user need a little bit of extra help? And how can we implement features that are going to create that seamless experience so that they don't really have to think about it? And in that process, we're suggesting features and flows, and our engineering teams are there to help educate us on, what is possible on the different platforms that they're building on, and what are some other solutions that may have been implemented on other work that they've done that we haven't been a part of. So that's, something that's like really imperative, that collaboration there. As far as user experience goes, I know there are many different ways to get into that industry and to learn more about UX design principles. There's human computer interaction courses that I know are available at many different places. There's also, I think a lot of psychology is built into that as well. So, maybe students who are taking core classes and picking electives and things like that, that can fall into that. There are also a lot of design boot camps that you can look at. There's of course General Assembly. I actually mentor and have been mentoring an online academy. It's called Design Lab for the past almost 6 years. So in terms of user experience and getting basics there's like a lot of ways you can do it. But in terms of, at work at Visa, thinking about collaboration and the teams that we're working with, it's design systems engineering teams, it's the product engineering teams, and of course our product strategists as well as our researchers, including Ola. We collaborate a lot, and she can tell you more on the research side, but we do iterative research to validate our designs.
Incredible. Okay, so we also have a big thank you to our Visa folks that are here, and a big thank you to Visa for supporting us. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. Since our today's focus is aerospace and design thinking, let's talk a little bit about that aerospace engineering. So Weedy and Abigail, this question's for you. What made you decide to pursue aerospace engineering?
Well, I'm going to date myself here. So back when I was in middle school, the NASA was in the news a lot with the brand new space shuttle program that was about to come online. And I had I sent off by mail to get a big poster of the space shuttle, a cutaway and stuff that was plastered in my room. And when I was in high school is when the first space shuttle lifted off. So it was kind of an exciting time at NASA. And it's like, that's what got me into into aerospace, is the idea of going into the space program. And it turns out, as a college student, I did co-op at NASA, but for lots of reasons, once I graduated, I went to work in the aviation industry instead. And so that's been really cool too, but that's not what got me here. That's just where I've gone since. Yeah.
Awesome. Abigail?
Much like Weedy, my inspiration came from middle school. I watched a lot of space movies in middle school, like Apollo 13 and Interstellar. I thought they were so cool. And the accomplishments made, like in space exploration already at that time, were huge. We've gone to the moon, built the International Space Station. It was crazy. and I decided that I really wanted to be there. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I did some research and looked up career options in the space industry. And I chose aerospace engineering specifically for the engineering because engineering focuses on creating new things and solving real problems. And I decided I really wanted to do that, so it was perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. And Weedy, have you kept that poster? Do you have new NASA or new like breakthroughs that have been happening that you kind of still keep track of?
I still collect pictures of cool stuff, nebula, pictures that the Hubble, takes and stuff. I like to look at cool things.
Oh, awesome.
But airplanes are cool too.
They are. We definitely we'll get to that a little bit more. Abigail, can you share a bit about your classes, the fields of study for aerospace engineers at UT, and what are some of the things that you've learned, or the technical skills that you have picked up going into your second year?
Yeah, so the aerospace engineering degree is split into 2 design tracks. So there's the atmospheric, which in those design classes, you focus on design aircraft. And there's also the space track, where you focus on designing space systems, which includes the spacecraft plus everything else used to accomplish whatever you're doing in space, and designing missions. But in general, both tracks will take your general like calculuses, physics, chemistries, and also your general engineering classes. And just last semester, I took a class where I learned how to code for engineering applications. And one of the coolest things I think we did was graphing the path of a satellite in orbit around Earth. Like, that's so relevant to like what I want to do. So it's amazing that we got to do it. And another class I took last semester taught me a lot about the aspects of engineering design. So what we did in that class is we designed fidget spinners in a computer-aided design software called SolidWorks. And we actually got to manufacture them in many different ways. So we had a 3D printed fidget spinner. We had a fidget spinner made out of wood that we laser cut. And we also had some that we created from molds in our machine shop. And I thought that's amazing. That's something I get to keep, And just off of these classes, you can see that engineering comes in so many different forms. So as I take these classes, I think, oh, do I really like the coding? Like maybe that's what I want to do with engineering. Or do I really like the design? Because then I can also do that. And this has definitely been one of my greatest motivators and really helps me to not be overwhelmed about my future. So I really enjoy it.
Nice to know that you have some options. And we have this question that came up in our Q&A. It's like, what can I do to become an aerospace engineer? So what, Weedy and Abigail, what are some of the things that y'all may have done prior to starting your major, while you were in school, to help you get to this space?
I come from a large family, but I was always the kid my mom would hand broken things to fix them because that's what I like to do. I like to take things apart and figure out how they work and see if I can figure out how to make them work better or work again. And so, yeah, that's a lot of it. Just having an interest in how things work and, learning more about how things, and that can be physical things. It can be programming. There's so many different aspects to engineering, and that's one of the cool things about it. Is it's like, I'm really glad there's people in engineering who like to do the programming, because I don't like to do that part. I learned enough of it to get through school and to do some specific things and work that I needed to do. But I'm so happy that there's other people who actually want to do those things, because I let them, and then I focus on the things that I feel like I'm better at, and I certainly enjoy better. And a lot of times those are things that other people don't want to do.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I agree, like really exploring your options. I was lucky enough to get like a scholarship to go to the space camp in Huntsville, Alabama. And they put us through like different parts of like where different people would be working, like in the control center, or maybe like you're on the actual like International Space Station doing stuff. And you really got to see, oh, I really enjoy this, or I really didn't like this. And that's really helpful for deciding like what you want to do with engineering.
So to go back really quickly, Weedy, you started off with this idea of space and NASA, and now you say you're working in aviation. Can you talk a little bit about how you
How
made
that
shift?
happened?
How that happened?
Well, what's funny is my first co-op tour at NASA, I was working on airplanes. So yeah, I mean, NASA actually has some airplanes. And at the time that I started my co-oping, the group that was at that time out at what used to be the Ellington Air Force Base near Clear Lake City in the Houston area, near Johnson Space Center, part of the JSC facility. But NASA has a hangar there and some T-38 aircraft, which is a small Air Force jet trainer, but NASA owns several of them that primarily are used for the astronaut pilots to keep their flying current. They also use them as chase planes when they were doing like shuttle landings and stuff. But that was my, first exposure to, aerospace actually still also includes airplanes.
Yeah.
And so the really cool thing about the 4 months I was there on that semester, I got to crawl around on airplanes and talk to mechanics and, just see how the airplanes were maintained and, what they needed to do to keep them flying safely. At that time, NASA also had some Grumman Gulfstream G2s that are a kind of corporate jet size, but two of them were set up to simulate shuttle flights, shuttle landings, because the space shuttle, if you remember your history now, was when it would come in for a landing was a glider. You had one shot to land. There's no power coming in. And so they needed to practice those landings before they got to the real thing. And so one of the really interesting design things that I got to learn about was how they make this little corporate jet behave like the space shuttle. And so there's some just amazing technical details on how they made that happen. And, if you have an extra half hour sometime, I'll go through all the stuff I learned about those airplanes, but it's cool. A bunch of computer racks in the back and some very special structural modifications to make the airplanes basically fall out of the sky like a brick, kind of like the space shuttle did, and then come in for simulated landings. But like I said, there were some cool airplanes. I got to really learn what mechanics were up against in doing the things that the engineers were asking them to do. So it was a really valuable experience. My other co-op tours were in areas that were more directly associated with space, designing the up and coming space station and things like that, and learning to do some of the specialty structural analyses associated with that, which also applies to airplanes. And then that's still the work I do to this day, is that what I focused on was the structural analysis, and that applies to spacecraft, aircraft, bridges, buildings, anything.
Right.
But the part of the industry that I went to work in was airplanes. And some of that was for personal reasons. By the time I graduated college, I had met a guy, and he was also in aerospace, but he had a good job offer in San Antonio working on airplanes, where I also had a good job offer. And so I took it over the one in Houston working on space stuff, because I kind of wanted to be in the same city. Right. And so, but I've never looked back. I've loved the career that I've spent working on airplanes. It's something I really didn't know about when I was growing up. Because NASA, what's in the news, not what people are doing with airplanes. But once I learned more about it, I've enjoyed it.
That is incredible. And y'all have both talked really clearly about just being open to those opportunities.
That's the main thing. It's like you can't know everything right now, and you're always going to find out something new. And so be open to learning about those new things, and taking a risk now and then on something unknown.
Yeah. Who knows, you might, find your passion, find a new interest, find a new challenge to tackle. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to shift back to some design thinking questions. Weedy, you've touched on this a little bit already about the work that you do as an aerospace engineer. Now, thinking about that specifically with design thinking, how has that come into play in your work?
Well, what's funny is I like to tell people I'm not the artist, I'm the art critic. In most of the work that I do, I am evaluating someone else's design and seeing if it is strong enough, if it will last long enough, it makes sure it won't do anything bad to everything around it. But at the same time, I get involved in the design of some of the modifications and repairs that we do on airplanes. And that's kind of the niche that I work in, is modifications and repairs. And so we're not doing new aircraft design. We're working within some very strict limitations of how we can put a repair on an airplane with
Right.
the space limitations. And we're also, you've got existing structure that you don't want to make worse, you don't want to damage while you're trying to fix one thing. And also access can be a big problem. And, as far as can a mechanic physically get in here to do what we're asking them to do?
Right.
And so a lot of working with the actual real design staff and reviewing things is to make sure that we've really evaluated what it's going to take to implement a design. And that's where my focus usually is. But again, sometimes I do get involved on the front end trying to figure out how we're going to approach something. But in addition to that, just over the years, I have gotten more comfortable with, just from exposure, and more involved on the front end design of things. But a lot of my focus, there are some people who are very good at big picture things and, kind of overall approach. And really my strength is in looking at details and trying to be, and it really, one of the strengths of most engineering projects is the team.
Right.
Because you're almost never working alone, working in a vacuum. Even me as an independent consultant on a project, I'm working with a team of other engineers who are my customer. And so, having people with these different skill sets and different strengths is one of the key factors in a good design, to come up with a good design, and one that works well and can actually be built, and hopefully at a reasonable cost. And things like evaluating, what type of fasteners do we need to use to install the parts for this repair, and can we procure them? Sometimes just because you want this part doesn't mean that it's available in a reasonable amount of time. And so you're just going through, details like that. It's like, okay, well, if we can't do this, if we can't get this part, what can we get that would still work well enough? And then evaluating to make sure that it meets all of the technical requirements. And so really that's the approach, the part of what I see in the design process. And so in summary, there's a lot of different pieces to a design. There's, the high level of, overall, this is where we're going, this is what we're trying to do. But then there's a lot of technical details, materials, what things that your particular shop has access to materials wise, what's in stock, what kind of machinery does your internal shop have versus vendors that you can go to have things built, and how much time does it take to do those different things, and what is most cost effective time and money for your project. And so there's a lot of different kinds of details to work out in the design process, not just what you're putting on paper.
Right. Absolutely. So Rebecca and Andrea, how would you describe design thinking and what your work is, and how are you connecting that with it? And what kind of excitement do you see when you think about design thinking and what you're doing and how you apply that?
Yeah, I can start us off. So I was introduced to design thinking actually through UT. There's a Bridging Disciplines program certificate that you can get in design thinking, and it leads you courses through the integrated design department from the Department of Fine Arts. And through that, you learn what the intention is that you go into designing, which makes it extremely relevant for basically anything that you want to create or anything that you have like an intentionality to do, whether it be in user interface or in social justice. So for my internship last year with Nike, I did a connecting experience with my design strategies certificate. And through that, I was able to utilize a lot of the different ideas that they had to get different user perspectives, and then to ideate from those perspectives in a intentional manner, understanding what my final concept was I wanted to create for my audience before then prototyping and getting audience feedback from that. So that would be how I integrated design thinking throughout college and in industry.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca. So for me, design thinking, as I've used it in my career path, it has really come down to three things for me. Is Number one, empathy. Empathy for who's going to be using this product. And what I love as a data scientist is that I still love the people aspect of data. And that's why I got into statistics, because I love using data to study people and to help them. So number one, empathy. Number two, asking questions, asking a lot of questions, asking the right questions. Sometimes it takes a lot of questions to get to the right question. And I always tell the people that I'm working with, my customers, my clients, hey, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. It's not because I'm trying to be difficult. It's because I want to understand you better. And when you do that, a lot of times it's very disarming to people. And plus, people love to talk about themselves, right? So asking questions is always good. And then number three, good data. That is part of what is so important to good design is good data. If you don't have a good understanding of what the current situation is, the current state of that problem that you're trying to design for, you're not going to design the best solution. So for me, that really connected to my background in data science. I did a lot of design thinking. Unlike Rebecca, I did not have a lovely formal training. I basically was, I think it was before a meeting at a Starbucks with my team in San Francisco, and they said, we're going to go do a design thinking workshop, and Andrea, you're going to lead one of the sessions. So that's how I learned design thinking. And I know some of you will probably learn design thinking that way too, but it was a really great way to just dive head first. And I found myself facilitating a small group who were redesigning a process for supervisors at a large public utility in California, and really getting into the head of someone who is a supervisor who has a large team that's spread out all across the county. And this supervisor is trying to put in leave requests, time off requests, time cards, all these kind of things. But getting good data around how difficult some of these tasks were was key. And so we had that, we collected it, asking those questions, continuing to ask questions until we got to the right question, and then going back always whenever we'd start to stray off the path or go down a rat hole, we'd go back and say, okay, we're talking about our supervisor. Her name is Jessica, and we need to have empathy for her because she's got 3 kids at home. She needs to get her work done, and she needs to take care of her employees. So I think for me, those were the 3 things that really stand out to me as design thinking. And for me, it was learning on the job.
So a little bit of formal training from one, a little bit of just like on the fly from another. So Ola and Courtney, for y'all talked about this design thinking, how key it is at BSN and the work that you do. How did the two of you learn or gain some skills in understanding this design thinking? And do you have any recommendations for current or future STEM students that are like wanting to maybe get a little bit more formal training? I know Rebecca has shared a wonderful link in the chat, but are there other things? And Andrea gave some great examples as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for me personally, I went to school for human-centered design. But the recommendation I would give for anyone who is studying like one certain field in college, if you're still in school, is like to take those classes that are outside of your field and to take those opportunities, kind of like how Rebecca mentioned. And then Courtney mentioned also that there's like lots of online resources for design thinking now that, yeah, there's so many, like you can probably just do a Google search and find some really good information. So that's what I would recommend.
Something that actually I feel helped me become better at the design end of engineering was volunteering with a high school robotics program. And just working with the students while they're going through the design process and just seeing how they could make things work that I kind of scratched my head and questioned how it could ever work. And just, you know, seeing that process and helping walk them through the process made me better at it.
Yeah, similar to that, I think if you've already taken like some sort of design thinking course or workshop or have had that experience for like you know, a project with your friends, writing about it is a really great way to connect with others online regarding design. I think Medium is a really great platform for that. You know, if you even want to, sorry, my dog is underneath me. She's worried it's going to rain. I think it got cloudy earlier. Anyway, you know, writing about your experiences. So like, even if you're thinking about, how do I furnish my new apartment? Like, how do I want to set that up? And what is the design thinking around that? Like, I'm going to do some research. I might consult some people that I know and talking through that process. Another really great resource, if you're looking for things to read, is the series From a Book Apart. It's a series of, I don't know, they probably have 30 to 40 different volumes at this point of design thinking. Designing with Empathy. One of my former coworkers wrote a book on design systems thinking. So checking that out would be, I think, a really good first move to kind of like get even deeper into that design thinking field. And they're really short reads too. They're pretty affordable. And they're also like color coded somehow. So yeah, they're really great. Highly recommend.
You can also do your module, right? For those of you who are doing the IBM skills build, that is your module, your design thinking module. So that is helpful. And I feel as though there's so many resources out there and you're able to just Google them and find, you know, formal classes and just books and articles around it. It's just how important this design thinking process is for all aspects. All of you have talked about the collaborative nature of your roles and incorporating these processes in the work that you do. And so it's really good to hear that these are skills that are actually needed and in use for whatever career path it is that you may be pursuing. So we did have a couple of questions coming in the Q&A. We had, thank you, Edie, for getting in there and like answering them and typing out answers. Any of our panelists are welcome to do that or share resources in the chat. Want this to be interactive. But one question that I did see pop up that we can kind of wrap up our session about, because I know that this is something that we get, and we've seen a couple of people already answer it, is this being told that you couldn't do it or that you are doubted at any point in your career. And I see a lot of head nods, and I see that there have been some responses like yes, yes. What were you able to do to try to overcome that or to push past it? What did you find was really important for you?
Amy, I'll jump in here really quick just to kind of explain what I typed in there. I unfortunately had a professor at UT who I was in his programming class, and I just wasn't making a great grade. And he told me, he's like, I don't think you're cut out for this. And it was crushing. It was crushing. It's crushing for me to talk about now as a successful data scientist. Well, you know what? I didn't take no for an answer. And I went and found another professor who happened to be female, who gave me a job in her lab working with her graduate students doing data science work that summer. So the joke's on him. And then I spent most of my career, looking back on it now, doing computer programming and doing design for people who are going to use those systems. And I even worked at some of the largest public utilities in California, American Airlines, Delta Airlines. I did software consulting with Deloitte. So I almost feel like when you get that no answer like that, that's what ends up really making you successful.
Right.
Because I think sometimes people just don't see it in you. And that was my experience. So don't let it get you down. It hurts. It does hurt. It does hurt at first, but find and surround yourself with people who believe in you. And that was that professor, Dr. Richards Cordum, who I think is at Rice now, but was at UT in the early 2000s. And she gave me a job in her lab, and it just totally changed my confidence level. So seek out those people. And some of those people are on this call today. So yeah.
I can echo some of those same sentiments. I also had a professor, probably my sophomore year, who thought it was a complete waste of time to teach undergraduates in general, but especially to teach women. And I didn't do well in that class and thought I hated the subject. But then when I had to take the follow-on class that was the same subject, I had a different professor and figured out how much I enjoyed the subject because it was just amazing when it was well taught. But I really also echo the thing is you need to surround yourself with people who believe in you because it makes a big difference. It's like the guy I've now been married to over 30 years is my biggest cheerleader. And he is one of the key people as I was really growing up now to help me believe in myself. And it just having someone in your corner, it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Rebecca, Abigail, as new graduates, as current students, do you have anything to share of how y'all have been able to, if you've experienced this and how you may have been able to kind of push past that?
Yeah, I think the best thing that I've done while here at UT is make friends in my major, people who you can work with when you're both struggling on an assignment, or who they can just help you or you can help them. You really benefit by having friends and people who you can support and who support you back.
Definitely. I think along those lines that Abigail just mentioned, finding what you really value and finding those people who share those same values makes for an amazing, stable friend group. I think when I was a freshman or sophomore, I was still chasing the idea of becoming the general idea of what being the best is instead of what that best is for myself. And I think really understanding what you need, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then finding those people who will help support you throughout your journey is one of the best things that I've done throughout college.
Something else that's really important, I think, especially for incoming freshmen to learn, you don't have to be the best to be good enough. And I know a lot of engineers who just barely squeaked by and got a degree and have had good jobs. And now, granted, these are mostly guys because the girls who are barely squeaking by get discouraged and drop out. Don't be that girl. Stick with it anyway. Because even if it's hard, even if you have to struggle, you're still good enough.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be the best to be good enough.
I love it. You don't have to be the best. You can be the best at what you want to be at, what you define for yourself and not what others define of you. I love it. With that, then let's, on those very high notes, we will wrap up. Thanks again for everyone joining today, for our incredible panelists here. Another thank you to our summer externship partner, Visa, for your support, and Courtney and Ola for joining us today. We look forward to seeing all of you all at our next FabFems Friday, which is going to be on June 24th. So watch your email, our social media for links and details. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe so you can stay up to date on all things. Thanks so much again for everyone being here. This was an incredible session. I hope that you have a restful and enjoyable rest of your summer. Bye, everyone.